the bitter cold of winter, something most birds despise and flee from, leaving a vast area silent and desolate. Except one. The snowy owl, a charismatic megafauna. Snowy owls are the only birds of their kind that enjoy the desolate wasteland of the Arctic tundra. These beautiful creatures live and breed in the icy flat expanses of the Arctic Circle, but come winter they fly as far south as Canada. However, this year something strange happened. They've been seen everywhere in the northern United States, even as far south as Georgia. They hunker down in grasslands and dot the shoreline from Maine to Delaware and beyond, even in places you might not expect. This snowy was found aboard the fishing vessel Titan while fishing off the coast of Gloucester, Massachusetts.
Exercise. Edward's gonna fly. Fly.
Dennis Murley has been a naturalist at the Wellfleet Bay Mass Audubon Sanctuary for over 30 years and has studied these snowy owls ever since he first came across them.
When you get new records for a bird for a state, you know something else is that I think what's exceptional in this case is there have been, every year there's snowy owls in New England. Some years they make it as far down as Cape Cod and the islands. Some years, exceptionally, they'll get into the Connecticut coastline. But this year, they seem to have gone further down the coast and have appeared a lot more in inland situations. And a lot of places throughout the country, it looks like this eruption is on a much broader front, and it's not so much tied to the coast here in the east. It extends inland and extends further south. It looks like this is going to end up as one of the maybe a 30 or 40 or 50-year event. This is an exceptional eruption.
But why? What makes this year different? What happened up north for this eruption to happen? Norman Smith is a naturalist and director of the Blue Hills Trailside Museum and has studied wildlife for over 44 years.
Well, one thing is nobody can really prove why the birds are here. The theory is that this year snowy owls are here in New England and further south because it was a banner year for lemmings. And if the birds were here because they were moving because there was no food up north, you wouldn't just see, young snowy owls. 98% of the birds we caught this year are hatch year birds. They were born last May or June. So if that's the case, then it's young birds that are moving out because it was a banner year for lemmings, produced lots of baby snowy owls, so there's more owls to travel further south.
Lemmings are small rodents that can be found burrowing in the Arctic tundra. It is believed these rodents are the reason for the boom in snowy owl population. This photograph was taken by biologists last summer while in Quebec. It's a snowy owl nest surrounded by 70 carcasses of lemmings, which in turn helped mother snowies lay more eggs and keep the hatchlings well fed.
What's interesting to me, though, is for Cape Cod, 3 years ago was the best year I've ever seen for snowy owls. This one approaches it and probably exceeds it. But overall, throughout the range, this is perhaps going to go down as a 50-year event or a 100-year event.
So what characteristics make the snowy owl a charismatic megafauna?
I think a charismatic megafauna is someone who isn't particularly interested in animals, has two responses to a surprise. Oh! Or, ooh! And the kids do it better than anything. And a snowy owl would be one of those almost unanimous, oh.
Well, if you take the raptor family, you can divide it into two groups. We have the hawks and we have the owls, and they're obviously in the owl family. One thing that makes them different in the owl family is that they have longer wings than, say, a great horned owl. They're both great horned owls and snowy owls are in the bubo family, and they're owls that basically have ear tufts. When you look at a snowy owl, you don't see ear tufts, but they all have them. They rarely keep them erect, but they do have them. They are also built a little different from the other bubos, like eagle owls and great horned owls, because they have longer wings, much more pointed wings. They can fly a lot faster. And so they have different mechanisms for catching their food. Most owl species, when they come in, they sneak up on their prey and silently drop on top of it and catch it. Snowy owls, being a white owl, on a brown background in the summer when it's daylight 24 hours a day, coming in slowly and sneaking up just isn't going to happen because you have no camouflage. So they use speed and catch their prey. So these birds are much faster flying than most of the owl species that we have.
At the Blue Hills Trailside Museum in Milton, Massachusetts, the naturalists take in injured and sick wildlife and provide a home for them. Norman Smith runs the day-to-day operations. Come nightfall, he and his team capture snowy owls at Logan Airport and release them to safer grounds.
What we do is we catch the birds at Logan Airport for the safety of the jets and the safety of the owls. Obviously, owls aren't something that you want at an aircraft, or interact with an aircraft, get hit by a plane, because they could damage the plane, and you don't want it to be affected. Logan Airport had one of the worst air crashes that ever took place. It was back in the 60s when they had a plane that ingested starlings in all engines, and the plane actually crashed, and everyone on board just about was killed. So birds at airports are a real problem. So we relocate these birds, and what we actually do is we actually take the birds and we catch them and we move them further south. Then once we move them further south, the theory is early in the season the birds are going to continue to move south. Then later in the season we actually take the birds and we move those birds north of the airport because theoretically they're thinking about starting to head north.
Crowds of people show up at Plum Island to these releases for a once-in-a-lifetime close-up peek at these birds. This snowy, named Century, is the 100th captured snowy owl at Boston's Logan Airport this year.
Any of the birds that they put GPS transmitters on, the thought was that they wanted to give a name to the bird so people could track it instead of a number, which is easy to remember. And in reality, rather than give a name to a bird, you want to give a name to it that relates to something. And we don't want people to think of these as pets. We want them to know that they're snowy owls. So the names were given to them with a location of where the birds came from.
Project Snowstorm is a crowd-funded collaborative research effort created by Scott Weidensaul and Dave Brinker with many independent researchers. They work together to learn more about the snowy owl eruption of this past winter. Norman Smith is one of these collaborators.
Project Snowstorm started this winter. It started in December of this year. It was a brainchild of Scott Weidensaul and David Brinker, who ran Project OwlNet. It was basically a site for banding saltwet owls. And with the incursion of snowy owls this winter, they decided that they wanted to do something with snowy owls. I became a collaborator with them, and we've actually put 4 of their transmitters on snowy owls this winter. And I think it's a great opportunity to collect data from a wider range of areas.
With these satellite taggings, you put the tag on and you don't drive to Quebec, you run back to your lab, and very quickly you're getting updates. And that sort of methodology there is, it's still very expensive. You need funding, but the mechanism is there to study these birds.
On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
By the end of May, the snowy owls migrate back up north. All that's left now is to wait. Once the transmitter's information starts pouring in, we will finally understand the daily life of the mysterious snowy owl. Until then, we can just marvel at the mystery and beauty of this charismatic megafauna.